Hello everyone and welcome. My name is Stephanie Duran with CalFresh Outreach at CDSS and I will be the moderator for today's webinar. This training webinar will demonstrate how to use the My Benefits CalWIN portal to submit CalFresh applications. I'm going to go over a few logistics before we get started. Our webinar will be approximately an hour long. This webinar will be held in listen-only mode. You may connect your audio in one of two ways, either over the telephone or through your computer. You should see this option under Audio on the webinar control panel. Please be aware that if you wish to speak and ask questions during the Q&A session of the webinar, you must connect with a USB mic and headset or by phone. Connecting with only headphones will not allow you to speak and ask questions. If you do not have a USB mic, you must connect by phone in order to listen and ask questions. Keep in mind that if you are connected by phone and choose to connect via mic and speakers, you will automatically be disconnected from the telephone line. If you would like to ask a question, please type your question into the questions box and press send. Questions submitted via the questions box will either be answered back to you electronically or the moderator will ask the presenter your question. At the end of the presentation, we will have an open Q&A time to ask your questions on CalFresh application submissions by phone or headset. To ask a question during this open session, please select the Hand button, which is on the little sidebar to the left of the control panel. Please take a moment right now to locate the Hand button, and if you found it, please click the hand. Great. Now when you've raised your hand to ask a question during the Q&A time, I will unmute your line and you'll be able to ask the presenter your question. You can all put your hands down now. This webinar will be recorded. If you're not comfortable with having your voice recorded, you may opt to enter your question through the question box and it will remain anonymous. Now, I'd like to turn it over to the CalWIN presenting team for today.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Joanne Osborne with CalWIN project. What we are demonstrating, we're excited actually to be demonstrating this, but keep in mind what we are demonstrating today is not what you have in production today. It is new functionality that we have been working on for quite a while that will be delivered and available in February 17th. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Dave Annell, who will be actually walking through the presentation of future functionality that will be available on the 17th.
Hello. So what I'm going to do is I am going to start off with, here's what you see today, and this is the normal user interface that you'll see for My Benefits CalWIN, and kind of show you this is kind of the process that you go through today, just the starting of that process. Then explain what we're doing in terms of the transition period to the new way of doing things, and then walk you through a demo of the new way of doing things and navigating through the website to do things such as to submit a CalFresh application. So when you look at things today, from the My Benefits CalWIN home screen, you either are clicking on the Get Started Here link next to Community-Based Organization, or you're choosing the Get Started button from the Community-Based Organization. Whichever path you choose, you're then going in, and depending on whether you have what's known as a cookie on your computer or not, you may be asked to select a county and provide some sign-in credentials. And then once you've done that and the cookie remains on your machine, you're able to just bypass any of that sign-in process and go right in and start preparing a application. So that process is going to be changing somewhat. So that's how it works today. And then I will show you now how it's going to go from here. But first of all, some of the things that we're doing in terms of the migration before we actually go live with this new change in way of doing things, which will occur starting on February 17th. So what we'll be doing is we have worked with all of the counties, all of the CalWIN counties, to identify the existing CBOs that exist today, and we will be migrating all of those CBOs over, and as well as the user accounts that you have today. So the user ID and password that you're using today, you'll be able to use that same user ID and password going forward. So we didn't want to have to change that process for you. So we wanted to make you be able to function, right away using the credentials that you're used to using today. So the home page looks basically the same, but a little different in that, since I just mentioned that we will have already set your user account up for those of you that are an already existing CBO and that already have a user ID and password, you'll be able to sign in directly. And this is basically the same type of a process that an individual client receiving benefits would do if they were using the website. So you'll be able to enter your user ID and password, again, the same one you're using today. Sorry about the delay. Oh, that's why.
Good.
Oh, I know why. It's the wrong ID. Pardon me for that. And you'll then be presented with the first thing is a security image. Now, because we are pre-creating your accounts for you, one of the things, there's a couple of pieces of information that we aren't able to capture yet for you. One of these is the security image, in this case, this little rabbit picture, but it can be an image of your choice, and I'll show you in a minute how to choose that. But you'll see, you will not see a security image when you initially sign in. But that's a piece of information that we will need you all to provide once you've signed in for that first time. And then your password. One other thing I'll point out here as part of the sign-in process is, should you forget your password, you have options, like this to be able to retrieve your password. And you'll do that by responding to some security questions and answers that you will have defined as part of your user account. And I'll show you how to set those up as well. So after providing the user ID and password, I'm going to be presented with what we call kind of your home page or your landing page, but this is kind of the main place that you'll go to once you're signed in. And the view of this will depend on the role and privileges that your user account has, and I'll explain that in a bit. But I just want to navigate through and show you what's available here. You'll see up at the top, you'll see the county that you're signed in with. So that would be the county that you're going to assist that client with. Your first name will be listed here. There's an access link here where you can go to update profile information about your account. So if you want to change your first or last name, add a middle initial, add security image, update security questions and answers, change your password, do a number of things here, you can go to that link. And then you have a sign out link here at the top. We have some help buttons up here. There's a frequently asked questions, there's a contact us and a help button. I'll just click on the help button here. This is help that is predominantly for use by any user of the website. So The CBO users can use this. This is the same help content that we present to clients that use the application. And there's some information there about using the website. There's information about the various programs that are in place. There's a list of frequently asked questions that users may have, and then a glossary of terms. And then there's also search capabilities. So you can enter a search term such as CalFresh and be able to list information that's available in help that relates to the CalFresh program. Contact Us allows you to look up contact information that may exist for any county that you specify. So you choose a county, and there can be contact information that the county has provided and that the county maintains for the website should you need to reach out to a county. And then frequently asked questions, that leads to the same area as I showed you before. The next navigational bar here at the top, overview, is basically will always take you back to this same place. That, by the way, is the same thing that the My Benefits CalWIN tab up above here will. My agency, I'm going to skip over here for a minute, and my clients I'll skip over for a minute. Assister help off to the right. This is some additional help information. This help information is displayed and available only for CBO users and is specific to functionality that a CBO user could take advantage of when using the website. So the various pieces of functionality that I'll walk through here today is documented here within the Assister help area. And then there's some links in terms of resources, just some links for different websites and things that you could take advantage of. So the first thing I'm going to go to is I'm going to show you the My Benefits CalWIN account, which you can get to from this link or from that tab. I got that pretty quick. So this is basically just updating information about your own account. So when we initially have set up your account, we will have set up the username, the first name and last name that is associated with the point of contact that we had already on file for your CBO. You can obviously change that here once you sign in. If that information is incorrect, you can change that right here. So you enter a first name, middle initial, and last name on this page. With the sign-in info tab, the email address that we have will be the email address that we had for the point of contact on file for you at this point in time. Again, you can change that email address. I will point out that the email address does have to be unique for the user ID. So if you have a CBO organization with 5 different users, for example, each of those individual users will need to have a unique email address. So you cannot use just the same email address for everyone. The reason that we do that is that we use the email address for self-service functionality, so that, for example, if you forgot your username or you forgot your password, we send emails to you with information such as a link to help you reset your password, and or if it was a forgot username situation, we would email your user ID to you. And so that's really the only point of the email address, but obviously it's incorrect. You wouldn't be able to take advantage of the self-service functionality. Email language is defaulted to English. Basically is all that's saying is that the emails that are received will be in English text. Your username is listed here. So now one of the first things that you will want to do once you sign in for the first time is you should complete the security questions and answers and identify a security image to be associated with your account. So you will have a list of questions that you can choose from, and you can provide an answer to each one of those. And the security questions and answers at this point in time are used for one function, and that is if you do forget your password, if you have security questions and answers already identified and associated with your account, you will be able to take advantage of resetting your password yourself. By responding, you'll be prompted with a security question, and you can provide the associated correct answer. You need to be able to answer 2 of the 3 questions correctly, and then you will be provided with a link via an email in which you can click on that link and proceed with the capability to reset the password to a value of your choice. Security image, you will be able to select from a wide variety of different images that are available. You can, make that update to choose, a different image should you so choose, and you can then provide that image with a name. And that image is just shown when you initially sign in to just basically allow you to say, prove that, see that when you're signing in that, yeah, that's my image and this is who I am. Skipping along then to the password, and I'm not going to bother saving those changes. The password option here, once you are signed in, if the password that you have currently on file, which is the one that we will have been assigned to you for your account, if you wish to change that password, you can do that right here. So you just provide the current password value and then set the new password value. The password tips in terms of the requirements for a password are given in the tips section off here to the right, and then you'll be prompted to save those changes. And then the last thing here that I want to point out is with the agency info window. One of the things that with the new design that we wanted to satisfy, and there's a few of these situations, mainly in the Bay Area, where you have a CBO that is in close proximity to 2 or 3, in some cases, counties, CalWIN counties. And you are helping clients that may reside in 1 or more of those counties. And rather than having to have separate user accounts for My Benefits CalWIN, we allow you to have one single account, and then what we refer to as affiliate yourself with more than 1 county. And so this is the page where you would do that. You would basically choose the other county that you wish to be affiliated with. So I'm in Solano, and I may want to be, affiliated with Sonoma, for example. And then we would, you would also need to provide what we refer to as an agency key. An agency key is something that when your CBO is initially set up, the county will define a alphanumeric value of their choosing that they will then provide to the CBO and say and ask you that when you do create a new user account, you would use this agency key value to create that account. And we do the same thing here when you're affiliating with an additional county. So you would need to know the agency key value, which can be obtained from that county representative. And so once you do that, then you can be affiliated with more than 1 county. And how that then works is when you sign in to My Benefits CalWIN, after entering your password, if you're associated with more than 1 county, there will be a county selection page where you will choose the county from a list. Most cases it'll be like 2 counties listed, sometimes 3. And you would choose the county that you want your session to be associated with. So in other words, whatever county that client that you're assisting at that time, where they reside, is the county that you would then choose. So it's just basically you make that decision when you sign in. But there is that little bit of setup initially so that you can affiliate yourself with the other So that's kind of the profile area and the different options that are available here. So I'm going to go back and click on the overview and go back to my landing page. Below this, we see an announcement bar. This is announcement content that is specific to the county, and again, the county that's identified up here. The counties maintain this announcement content, and that can vary over time. It's the same information that clients see when they sign in. There's some message area that is role specific, depending on the role that you have as to what information that you see here. And then at the bottom, you'll see navigation buttons. So you'll have usually two options. For this demonstration, I showed all three buttons just so that you can have awareness. But you have the ability to check eligibility for a client. You can apply for benefits on behalf of a client. And optionally, if there has been a disaster declared in the county, this button here will be enabled, and you would have the ability to apply for disaster food assistance on behalf of that client. So again, this last button here would only be displayed if the county had declared the disaster and had made this button effective. So what we're going to do here is we are going to just go down the path of applying for benefits. And the first page that you see here is a page that the clients see today when they're doing the same process. Just gives them some information about, you know, what to expect and what they need to have when they are applying for benefits, some informational material. There's also some county material over here. This is a test environment, so it's not the actual content you see live today, but this is county-maintained content that each individual county can add additional text that they wish here, again, to provide additional information. And we click the Continue button, and now there's you're prompted in this case of the concept of a location. This particular page and selection will only get presented if your CBO has what we're referring to as locations associated with it. The location is strictly a reporting mechanism. So it allows for your application submission activity to be tracked not only at the CBO as a whole, but you may have separate offices, you may have separate places where you do business with clients, you may have a contractor-subcontractor situation, but basically you have the ability to report application submissions at various levels of granularity, and then be able to, I want to see the application submissions that occurred at the CBO as a whole, or I want to see them only at this particular place where I took applications at. And you have that ability now. And in order to have that ability, you have to tell us what location am I wanting to associate this application to. So that's what this location selection page is for. Again, if your CBO has no locations defined for it, this page would never be presented. But you'll have a drop-down list where you can choose a location name associated with your agency. The default is none. So you may, even if you have locations, you may choose not to associate one of those to the application. But, once that's done, then not only that CBO identifier, but also your location identifier, and also, thirdly, the individual user ID that is involved with taking this application is all stored together with the application. So you have three potentially different levels that you can report application activity by, whereas today it's kind of all rolled up to only that individual CBO. And in some cases, you've created, multiple CBOs have been created, in reality just so that you can track application submission for different users, even though it's really just the same CBO. So now we get into the process that you you're already using today to complete an application. So now we get into the windows that you're going through today to complete an app. And so it gets more into the stuff that you're used to seeing. And so we can start with your, the various reading material you have here to go through to start this process. And then we're going to, amongst the program choices today, we're just going to choose CalFresh as the program that we want to use. And again, more informational material. And this is, again, the same set of screens that a client would go through to complete the application using their own My Benefits CalWIN account. So nothing different about a CBO doing it versus a client. And so you can just enter the basic information about that. County is defaulted to the county that you chose. I'm going to choose I'm not homeless. My address is permanent. It's a street address. I'm going to basically enter just the usual information. Say my mailing address is the same. I can provide some contact information. If you have an email address, can be provided. You have cell phone, altered, different options here available to you. Best way to contact, my contact phone, and just various things here. This information here, do I want to get information about by email? This basically just allows you to, when you complete an application for benefits, the client may wish to get their notices that they receive about their application by email, and this just is a link into help information. This explains how they would go about setting up their own account and then defining an email address such that they could get their notices by email versus getting them by regular mail. And then you have the option of choosing expedited CalFresh. Based on your qualifications, you can provide some preliminary information. I'm going to assume that I'm not eligible for the fees, and so I'm not going to try to apply for that. You provide your electronic signature. The signature date is applied. Spouse can sign as well. And then, I have the option right now to go ahead and submit this application, which I'm going to do. It identifies the documents that I should upload and make available. So a scanned document such as a birth certificate could be uploaded right from here. And then the option is given to register to vote. And I am already registered, so I'm going to choose that option. And my application has then been submitted. I'm given a confirmation number and the date. One thing I do want to point out here is one of the things that will be added that is new is this Create New button down here at the bottom right. That does not currently exist. What that allows you to do when clicked is to basically go back to the start of the application process so that you can go right directly into creating another application without going back to your to My Benefits CalWIN landing page and basically going through some additional screens that way. So if you basically want to go through and complete several applications all in one sitting, you have the ability to basically just cycle through and do that all through here. So if we click that, you'll see that I'm going right back to the beginning of the application process, and I can start directly in doing that. So that's going through and creating an application. So I'm going to click on the My Benefits CalWIN button here and bring myself back to my landing page. So eligibility, checking eligibility, very similar, and I won't go through a whole process of that. The next thing I want to show you is the My Clients option. So when I click this My Clients tab, within that I have two options, one of which is new functionality, one of which is existing functionality that you already have today. So the first of these is applications. Currently today, when you start an application for a client, you need to go through the entire process all the way through to submission, or if you're unable to complete that because the client doesn't have enough information, they didn't, or they needed to leave before the application process could be completed, if they come back later, you have to start the process all over again. So you can't go back to an existing application that you started previously. Now with this, you'll have the ability to continue an application that you started but were unable to complete previously. So to do that, we provided this My Clients and then Applications tab. First thing you'll do is you have the ability to provide some criteria as to what applications, unsubmitted applications, do I want to list. And so if I know that I have the last name of an individual whose application he's here with me now and it's his application I want to work with, I can search just by last name. It allows me to pull up potentially a much smaller list that's available. I can also do that by listing who was the individual that last was associated with that application, so who last worked on it within my CBO, and or what location was that application started at. So I can, 3 different options of what you can do there, and then you also have some sort options. So when I pull the results, how do I want that result set sorted? So I'm not going to choose any, I'm just going to choose the defaults and return a list of the applications that I have that are out there. And so what I'm given here is an application ID. I'm given the last name of the applicant, their birth year, and the user ID of the assister that was last worked with that application. The date that the application was started, and then this delete button. Now one of the things to present here that you might notice is all the assisters are different. Regardless of who started and who last worked on the application, another assister, if there's multiple individuals in the CBO that assist clients and that have different accounts in My Benefits CalWIN, another individual can go and take over that application and finish it to completion. So it doesn't have to be the same individual that starts the application and finishes it, because that individual may not be available that day or whatever. So we wanted to make it allow for the capability such that another person can take over that and help that client out. So basically, you'll be able to see any of the applications regardless of who it was that started them. So last point here on this delete column. Delete is not to say that I'm going to delete the application from the system. That's not what this does. What this does is it allows you to, I know that this application, it's been sitting out here for a month now. I know this person's not coming back, and I don't need to see this show up every time in my list. So I can click the delete button, and that will remove this application from the list such that it no longer appears in the list. It's still in the system, but it will not show up, so you don't have to include that in your list of results every time you pull applications up. So if you do happen to select a specific application, and let's just select the third one here, it gives you a little bit more information. Rather than presenting this information on the initial screen, we wanted to provide just some higher level information and then provide a little more detail before we go on and go to that actual application. so that you can verify that, yep, this is the right application. It's not, no, this isn't the right application. But assuming it is, we'll give the name on the app, the application ID, the program or programs associated with the application, and then any household members that are associated with the app. So that gives you a little bit more detail. Yep, this is the application that I want to work. And then if I click Continue again, here's that location selection screen again. Again, if there were no locations identified, you would not see this window. But if you did, you again, because the application may have been started at one place, but you're continuing at a different place, and I may want to track that differently, so we give you that option. You know, you may not need to choose that, but we gave you the option. And then once you click Continue, you're brought back to the position within the application where you last left it. So you go right back to, you know, where the last person that helped the client off, where they left the app. So you're not having to start over from scratch. You go right back to it. And then you can go on and continue that. If you're not able to complete it the second time, that's fine. You can go back to it as many times as you want. So I'm going to just click the exit. Again, the exit button or the My Benefits CalWIN will return you to the same place. We'll bring you back to your landing page. So that's the unsubmitted application piece of this. Next thing I want to show is the reports piece. The reports piece is functionality that you have today where you can get a summarized level of application statistics, where you can look at the data by month, and we've added some additional month of program, but we've added a couple of other features to this. So the date range here, similar to what you have today, where you can choose, you know, I want to look at for this particular month or up to 6 months plus the current month. So it's basically a 6-month period is what you're allowed to look at. I may choose, again, this is where the location comes into play. If I do have locations and I want to look at my report statistics based on a lower level of granularity than the CBO as a whole, I can select a specific location and see the information just at that individual location. I may also choose to, look at just the information for one individual user within my CBO. So I have that option. And then I may want to choose to look at the information only for certain programs. One thing I will mention here, and I'll come back to this in a minute, is the assister selection here is role-based. So if you have what we term as a CBO administrator privilege, you will be able to look at your data across the CBO as a whole, as well as for any individual user that we refer to as a CBO assister within your CBO. So you can look at the data in a couple different ways if you're a CBO administrator. If you have a CBO assister privilege, this is actually grayed out and not selectable, and you will only be able to look at the report submission activity for yourself, so for your own user account. If we choose the all programs, I'll show you what that display looks like, and again, it's just like it is today, where your application submission count is broken down by month with an application total. If we instead look at, for example, CalFresh, then it gets a little finer grained. We list it by month. We also list it by statuses, pending, approved, and denied. So you can get that. And then you can do that same thing for any of the programs listed in here. So that's the reporting. Again, that's behavior that you have today. So now the My Agency tab. The My Agency tab is viewable only by those users with a CBO administrator privilege. So how does one have CBO administrator privilege? That is up to your county. The county specifies whether or not your CBO and all the way down to individual user IDs within the CBO, what role privilege that they should have. Should they have CBO administrator privilege, or should they have regular CBO assister privileges? Assuming that your county has chosen to provide your CBO one or more users within your CBO with the administrator privilege, you can see this particular tab, My Agency, and then the 3 sub-tabs located under that. The Agency sub-tab allows you to look at the information that's been captured about your CBO at the time that the CBO was initially created. And it allows you to then update that information should things change. So for example, if the point of contact to be associated with your CBO changed, maybe the phone number changed, the email address, you have the ability to change that yourself. If that information changed and your CBO did not have the administrator privilege, you could make that change known to your county, and the county can make that change for you. Oh, and then one thing I skipped past it, but you'll also see that this agency key value that's used to create an account is shown here. So if you needed to convey what is the agency key for additional users that need to set up accounts, you could look here and identify what that value is. If not, you can always obtain it from your county. Let's go to locations first before I go to that. And from the locations window, this is where, again, if you have the administrator privilege, you have the ability to view any locations that exist already for you and their current status. And you can modify the status. So if this location is no longer effective for your CBO, you can deactivate it. You also have the ability to add additional locations. So let's just go to this, and we can give the location a name of your choice, and a status, usually just active. Okay, so that's the locations area, and again, locations is just a reporting mechanism, strictly around using for reporting application submission activity at a lower level of granularity than the CBO as a whole. So lastly, we'll go to the Assisters tab. Assisters refers to the user accounts that exist at your CBO. And so again, we've got some criteria that we can choose from before we go and provide a list. We can look up an individual by name. We can look up assisters by status. They can be an approved status, unapproved, or deactivated, which I'll get to. And we can sort the data in a few different ways. So to begin with, let's just list the assister accounts that we have. So what we list here is an assister name by their first and last name, their user ID, and then their status. The status isn't shown here. It should, but it's not. And the status associated with these falls into 3 criteria. When an account is initially set up, it's set up in an unapproved state. So user will go and create an account, and I'll step through some of the process of creating an account. But once the account's been confirmed and is able to be signed in, it's initially given a status of unapproved. What then needs to occur is either the CBO administrator at the CBO itself, or if that arrangement is not used for that CBO, the county will need to approve the account. And that's just basically another level of oversight, just so that we don't have anybody coming in and creating accounts, and it's just a step that we took, an additional security measure. So initially it's unapproved. once the administrator or a county approves the account, then the status is changed to approved. The other function that can be done is you can deactivate an account. So again, the status can be changed from an approved status or an unapproved status to that of a deactivated account. And again, a deactivated account, they can still sign in, but there's really nothing that they can do with that account. So if we select an assister from this list, this is where you would go as a CBO administrator to, I just had one of my people come in, they've created an account, it's been created, they're now in an unapproved state, so I need to go and change their status to approved because it is someone that I want to be able to assist clients. So I'm going to go ahead, set their status to approved, and save those changes. So that's basically the assisters area and all of the functionality within the My Agency area. So now I am going to sign out. And next we'll go through the process of creating a new account. So as I said, we're going to pre-create accounts for all of the existing CBOs that the counties had already identified and that were already in existence. But as new CBOs come online and that the county has deemed that we want them to be able to assist clients as well, they'll provide information, just as they do today, to the county with the information about their CBO. The county will create that, or will enter that CBO information into the system, and then they will provide back to the CBO that concept and that term of an agency key. So that alphanumeric value that the individual users at the CBO can then use when they create accounts. And so to create an account, one thing that's a little different is you'll see this create new account. That's not the link that you want to use. That's what is used by clients to create an account. If you do click that, I'll just show you this. There's a message down here that, if you're really a CBO, you don't really want to go this path. So click on this link to do the create account process. What you can do to create an account is just click on the Get Started Here for community-based organization, and you'll get brought in directly to this page where you'll start the create account process. And if you clicked on that link on that previous page that I just showed you, you'll also get brought to this page. So here, you would enter that agency key value that you were given by your county, and I believe this is a good one. No, it's not. And so what we do is we then validate that the information that you entered is in fact compatible. So if the agency key value that you provided is effective with the county that you selected, then you'll be able to continue with the create account process. If it is not, you'll be given an error message like this, and you'll need to identify what is the correct agency key that I need to use. And so let's see, how can I do this? Because I just didn't track down an agency key value. All I wanted to do is basically just show you the screens that you would go through to create an account. I neglected to get a valid agency key. So in order to do this...
Okay. Dave.
Yes.
Use 222, 4 twos.
4 twos, that's what it was. Thank you. I was going with 3 twos. Okay. Sorry about that. So once the information is validated, then you'll basically start down the process of creating an account. So it's very similar. So that information that we showed in the beginning of the presentation about your account profile, when you're creating an account, you're providing that same information. So I'll go through and provide name information. Now I'm going to set up a user ID. I'm going to define my password. Again, your password guidelines are given to you on the page. I get to choose my security questions. Again, they have to be 3 different questions, and if you do not choose different questions, you will be made aware of that fact. I will choose then a security image, and I will give that a name, and I'll continue. And enter an email address. Again, the email address is strictly for self-service capability, basically to help you to be able to deal with things like forgotten passwords, forgotten usernames yourself, without having to contact someone else to assist you. Assuming all the information is valid, you'll then basically go through the process of accounts been created. Now it just needs to be confirmed. And so how that confirmation process then takes place is we send an email to that email address just so that we can validate that, that you are who you say you are. And so you'll then receive an email. Within that email will be a link. The link will include the user ID that you specified, although that user ID will be in an encrypted format. And you'll click on the link, and you'll come back basically and be brought to a sign-in process. And let me just show you what that will look like as you go and sign in. And so you'll be, after entering, you'll be basically brought to a user ID entry page. You'll enter that user ID. You'll enter your password, verifying that the image that you chose, which that wasn't mine, but that the image was the same as the one that you had chose. And you'll notice that my landing page now looks quite a bit different than the one that we were looking at before. And so when you first created your account, and we went through this confirmation step, which is you clicked on the link in the email and you successfully signed in, now your account is in that unapproved state. So as you can see here, there's just some messaging to the effect that you need to contact the administrator agency or your county to basically approve your account. You can see that I can't create applications. I can't, look at any report information or any of that. Really, is all I can do is I can look at help information, or I can update my account information. I can change my password if I want to, but that's about all. So at this point, you'll need to get your account approved so that I can then sign in. And then kind of the last thing I want to show you is just once that account's been approved, and I have been approved as a regular CBO assister privilege, then this is kind of the other view of the landing page that you'll see. So you'll see that basically the landing page now looks very similar to what we had when we had an administrator privilege. The only difference is that I do not have that My Agency navigation option. Otherwise, it's the same. And then the only other difference, as I pointed out, is that if I'm only an assister, from a reporting perspective, I am limited to viewing report information that is associated with applications that I submitted myself. So other than that, the privileges and the capabilities are the same. The ability to check eligibility, apply for benefits, continue unsubmitted applications, all of that functionality is the same regardless of the privileges. So I think that covers everything in terms of the new functionality. So I think we're ready to, I'm going to sign out. And I think I will turn it back over. Stop sharing and give it back to you, Stephanie.
Change presenter.
Oh, change presenter. I'm sorry, Stephanie. Yeah. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, and that was a great presentation. Thank you all for the CalWIN team. We're going to open up right now for the Q&A session. So let's see. Jeff Lassiter, are you there?
I am here. Didn't know if you wanted to handle hands or not. Now would be a good time if you are connected by phone or a USB mic to raise your hand, and we'll get to you in order. I have a few questions that have come in during the presentation, and Stephanie, you might want to just go ahead and turn over presentation rights back to Dave, as he may need to show us the answers to some of these questions. First one came in from Gloria, and Gloria wanted to know how do we sign up our organization so that we can have a benefit CalWIN account. And it sounds like it's the actual CBO organization. Can you explain that process a little bit more completely?
Basically, the process of a new CBO requesting of a county to be created as a CBO to work within that county, the process should be the same as it is today. There is a application submission form that they would complete in which they give information like the name of the organization, points of contact information including name, email address, phone number. There's some address information, but basically the same form that's being used today, and the counties have that, would be used today. The county will then take that information and will then enter it into the system, and then the one difference is that the counties will then provide back to that requesting CBO that new item called an agency key. And then the agency key value is what that CBO would give to the individual users to create accounts with.
And a quick follow-up question on that. If a CBO operates in more than one CalWIN county, do they have to apply for each county? And will their CBO account be different potentially for each county?
The user ID and password that they will use will be the same. However, they will need to, and again, this is a situation if we had not already identified that situation. There's a couple of them that we already know of based on existing situations where we are going to preset them up. But if this is a new situation, you will need to request of the county to say that I've already got a user ID, I'm working in this CBO, you give me the agency key that's associated with this CBO in your county, because the agency key is specific to an individual county, So even though it's the same CBO organization, that agency key may be different between one county and another county. So they will need to know the agency key for both in both counties so that they can do that affiliation.
Great, thank you. Maria asks, where can I call when I'm having trouble with entering CBO and password?
It should be with the county. But, yeah, however they started their communication with the county to get established, they should use that point of contact to help resolve any issues.
Yeah, because the counties will have access to the same user account information that like a CBO administrator would have. And again, you know, if it is a password or user ID information, you can hopefully try and do that yourself. You can work that out yourself through the self-service functionalities of the forgot username capability, or just show you one. I just wanted to show you. So there's the forgot username link, or there's the forgot password link. So assuming that you have an email address associated with your account, that's all you need to be able to retrieve your user ID. If you had security questions and answers set up and were able to answer 2 out of 3 of those correctly, you can retrieve and reset your password yourself. All of that failing, the county has the ability to reset a password for you. So they have that ability. They can also, you know, look up user ID information as well. So I agree. Going back to the county would be your best bet.
Okay. Joel says, hi Dave, thanks for the presentation. What should we enter as the birth date for family members when the client we're assisting doesn't know? Benefits CalWIN requires a date between 1/1/1900 and the current date.
Application question.
Yeah, that's an application question.
Yeah.
I think we might need to do a follow-up on that one because that's more of a policy question.
Okay, we'll save that for the after webinar Q&A. Jacqueline asks the following: is there a way I can retrieve a deleted application should a client come back in to complete, say, a month later?
Yeah, so assuming that you have had an application that you started, did not go through to submission, and then you went to that unsubmitted application page, I chose the delete option, thinking that person was never going to come back, and now it's not visible, so I can't go back to it that way. What you need to do is then go back to the county and tell them that, you know, this person has come back and the application, provide the name of the applicant. And what we would have to do is within the system is it's just a flag setting that we have on the application. Again, we didn't physically delete the application. The information's still there. What we would then do is we would have to, within the system, change the flag setting so that then it would be again visible from that unsubmitted application window. So again, I would go to your county, and then they could work with the system people to get that resolved.
Great. Liliana asks, does the application automatically save, or do we have to manually save before exiting?
And here I'm assuming that we're going through the application process, we've not reached submission, and whatever page we're on within the process and we click the My Benefits tab or we click the exit button and we go back to our landing page. Assuming that the application information entered up to that point is saved. And so if you go back to that application to recontinue it, you would be brought back to where you left off.
And kind of a follow-up to that question is, what happens if internet connection is lost or power goes out or whatever? I mean, are there any automatic saves along the way so that if some type of catastrophe happens that they don't have to redo the entire application?
Yeah, so I believe it's on each page that you're going through that process. As you go from one page to the next, on that transition, the information is saved at that point. So again, the only information that would be lost, I believe at that point, may be some of the information on the page you were on.
Thanks.
But other than that, anything else would be preserved.
Okay. All right. Betty asks, is there a way to find out where there are CalWIN affiliated CBOs in a particular county or locations of a particular CBO?
The county has visibility into all of the CBOs that have been defined within their county. They also have visibility into any locations that have been defined for any of those CBOs. So basically the county has a view into everything that exists within their own county.
All right, Amanda says, this is fantastic. Are there any discussions about creating functionality for CBOs to be able to re-enter to submit outstanding documents?
Yeah, this is Sean from HP. We're currently working on a change request to allow CBOs to attach documents. That's slated for a later part of this year, but that is in flight. And just to add to that, you would have to have the case number for the client that they're on and their last four of the SSN or their last name.
So what I'm hearing then is that currently there's no way to attach documents through Benefits CalWIN?
Well, yeah, actually, let's back up for a second. So if you're submitting an application online, as Dave showed through the process, you get to the end, there's an opportunity to attach documents through that process. Once the application is submitted, then you no longer have access to attach documents for that application or case. That's the state as of right now. And as I mentioned, later in the year, if the CBO has the client's case number and some other information, they'll be able to attach documents once a case has been defined for that person.
Good clarification. Thank you. Amanda also asks, are there discussions for expanding functionality for submitting SAR-7 or recertifications?
There have been some discussions about that. The initial functionality is that the attached documents part that I referred to is that if a paper copy of that was completed and scanned, they could attach that and submit it. As far as assisting the client with the renewal or a SAR-7, the recommended path is to assist the client in creating their own account, and by logging in, they can submit it through that path. And that's really the extent of what we've covered so far.
Thank you. All right, Angela asks, are you only able to view or continue unsubmitted apps? Once submitted, no edits can be made or additional documents uploaded.
Yeah, that's correct, and to follow up on that is the caveats is what Sean just pointed out about there is some changes coming later this year. But at this time, that's correct.
Joel asks this question. I get the impression, based on reporting numbers, that when we submit an application for expedited service, it generates two applications, one in expedited and one in the general CalFresh program. Is this the case? And if so, will it continue to be in the future?
No, those are two separate programs, and they're bucketed in two different categories.
So it's still one application, even if it's marked expedited.
Right. Right. And the program associated with that from your reporting statistics would show up under the expedited CalFresh.
All right, Liliana asks, are there scheduled maintenance times during which CBOs should be prepared for My Benefits CalWIN to be down?
So normally scheduled maintenance, if it's going to occur, is done in the wee hours of Saturday night, Sunday morning. We target the midnight to 6 a.m. time frame as the primary maintenance windows. We do our best to schedule everything around those hours. We do give 48 hours notice of system interruptions that you would see in the announcements that you see scrolling at the top of the page now at a consortium level. So yeah, we do try to give prior notification of any upcoming outages.
Right, Liz asks or says, I'm thrilled we can come back to unfinished applications at a later date, but I am curious. If the computer freezes during the application process, will that information also be saved?
Yeah, I think that question was answered a bit ago in that as you're going page by page through the application process, at the end of each page, the information captured on that page is saved within the system. And so the only potential thing that you might lose was any information entry that had occurred on that page that you happened to be on when such a thing occurred. That's a possibility that you could lose something there.
All right, and Liz also asks, is there a user manual that walks through these steps?
Answer no. There is not. We have prepared what I termed as workflows. So the steps that one would go through to perform common tasks, such as create an account, create an application, continue an unsubmitted application, view report submission activity. Those have been prepared in a kind of step-by-step fashion, including screenshots to walk through that process. That has been shared with the counties, and the counties have the ability then to share that information with their CBOs. So I'll leave it at that point. But there is no documented user guide.
Yeah, and speaking from CDSS, part of the reason we're doing this webinar is, because we do want people to, use these portals, and lacking a user guide in everyone's hands, this should be able to get you started. All right. Liliana, I'm not quite sure what her question is, but it's kind of a follow-up on site maintenance, and she's asking that the site generally goes down for an entire day with any new updates, and the CBOs never get the updates. I'm not sure exactly. Maybe you understand the question.
No. No, I'm not really certain what that's referring to.
All right. You're going to have to try again on that one, Liliana.
Well, or if you guys are able to, if there's any follow-up correspondence for this, if we can get more detail about that and provide that, we could provide a better response.
Right, and that's a good time to just say that at the conclusion of the webinar, we're going to be sending out a link for you to send any of those I should have asked that question during the webinar type of things. You can send them to our CalFresh Access email box, and then we'll submit your questions to the CalWIN team, and they can get those answers back to you. So even if you don't think of something now, but think of it later, you can still get your question answered. All right, we've got a question from Maria, and she asks, once you register the computer, you don't need to re-enter your password?
Yeah, that's current functionality today. The way that the functionality works today is it uses a system of cookies. And so basically, the first time that you access the system, and what I'll go through is, this is the current production system today. And so when a CBO clicks on, for example, the Get Started Here link, the first time that they come to that, they're going to be asked to select a county, and they're going to then be prompted for the user ID and password associated with that county for that CBO. And then what that does is it puts what's called a cookie on that machine. And then subsequent times, as long as that cookie remains on the machine for that web browser, they no longer have to re-sign in. The cookie basically is then used to authenticate them. It's problematic. It's something that the counties have been wanting to get rid of for quite some time. Much prefer using unique user IDs and passwords, and having every user have their own user ID and password, and just a more secure type of an environment. So that's related to functionality that exists today and is being replaced by the new functionality to be effective on February 17th.
Great. And that February 17th date is the answer for Marlon's question as to when the site update will be up and running. So we've got another, well, Amanda's taking a shot at Liliana's question. She says, I think what Liliana might be asking for is the listserv CBOs can sign up to receive updates on changes and service dates. I'm not sure you guys are connected to the listserv.
Yeah, nobody seems to be aware of it here.
Okay, we'll work on that one. Then Liz asks, are there plans to allow the data entering during pre-screen to transfer over to the application?
Yeah, the pre-screen process is a very high level. It doesn't ask names. It doesn't ask date of birth. Instead, it asks age. So it asks really generic, high-level questions so that the person's not intimidated or feeling they're actually applying an application. So it's not really a one-to-one match, and that's why they're separated. There's been some conversation of potentially doing that, but there's no additional direction on that.
All right. And then looks like Liliana's hand is raised, so maybe she can ask this personally. I'm going to unmute you now, Liliana, and let's see if you can ask your question. Are you there, Liliana?
I am. Could you hear me?
If you have, I'm going to mute that. Liliana, if you've got a phone as well as a microphone in your computer, you'll get kind of feedback like that. So either sign off the phone or mute the mic on the computer. I'm going to open you up again. Okay, are you there, Liliana? Sorry about that. I don't think that's going to work. So we'll have to get your question after the fact here. Esmeralda then asks, will our current follow-ups transfer over?
So I'm not sure what a follow-up is referring to. Is there some more detail on what a follow-up actually means?
I don't have that detail here. How about the next question from Anne? She says, how does one become an administrator?
Yeah, that request would be made of your county. The counties have the capability to make a determination as to whether or not to allow the CBO administrator functionality. That's completely up to the counties. So that would be a question that they would pose to their county, either at the time that they are requesting. So if it's a new CBO, they could ask about that. If they're an existing CBO, as I say, we're pre-creating the accounts. We're migrating your CBO over. And if your county had given you a sister privilege and you were wondering, could I have administrator privilege, that's something that they could make a request of the county, and then the county can make that determination.
Okay. And then Liliana has another question. It says, is there any discussion around giving CBOs approval denials for individual cases as opposed to aggregate information about submitted applications?
I believe this is in return, I'm guessing here that this is in reference to the reporting information on application submission activity and the fact that it's summarized results and thus does not roll down to be able to look at individual application submission activity. So drill down, if you will, into, okay, I had this many that were denied, but which applications specifically were those? The conversations have been had. I guess there has not been any resolution yet as to whether to provide that capability to CBOs.
Yeah, and I think the discussion there revolves around just the privacy of information.
I believe that that's the case, yeah.
Right.
I've reached the end of my questions. Are there other questions that you'd like to ask?
One thing that I'll pose here, just as a follow-up and ancillary to this, because it was posed by the counties, I've given this same presentation to the counties as well, as to, so they have the same preparedness. And one of the things that they asked about was the ability to continue to create applications for CalFresh anonymously. And today, anyone, be it a client or a CBO, can submit CalFresh applications anonymously. That capability continues to exist and will continue to exist. I'm just going to show you real quick. When you go to apply for benefits from the homepage, you'll see that you have an option here to start a CalFresh app without signing in or creating an account. So in other words, you're creating an account anonymously. That same process will work just as it does today. One thing I want to let the CBOs know, though, is that if you do that approach for a client, you are anonymous. So we have no tracking that a CBO submitted that application. That application was submitted anonymously. So any submission activity that was done by that CBO around that would not be viewable through your application reporting submission statistics. I just wanted to point that out. That's existing functionality. It's the way it works today, and it will continue to. But I just wanted to make sure that the CBOs have that awareness. If you want to have the recognition that your CBO submitted this application, you do need to go through the process of signing in and creating the CalFresh application as a signed-in CBO user.
All right, we've got another question from Liz. She asks, if we're to use the sign in or create my benefits CalWIN account, is this also not credited to the CBO?
I assume they're referring to a client, because if you sign in as a CBO assistor, as Dave indicated, the CBO is going to get credit for that. If you sign in with a client account, then as Dave said, privacy and everything else, that's the client's account. There's no association with that CBO.
Yeah. Yeah, we have no way of knowing that, the CBO had any involvement whatsoever. And so there is no tracking.
Okay. And then I'm going to, it's Eloisa. She asks, what happens if we don't get a confirmation? How can I get a confirmation?
Well, at the end of the application process, and Dave had this screen up earlier, is that at the very end of the process, you'll get a thank you page, and that thank you page is confirming that the application has been submitted online. And at the very bottom of that page is the option to receive an email confirmation. So just back up for a second. There's a couple options on that page. The thank you page will have the option to print a confirmation straight from that page. It also has the confirmation number displayed. Yeah. And then at the bottom of the page, it says if you'd like to receive an email confirmation of this, you have the option to enter in that email.
Now,
Sorry to interrupt. Once it's been submitted, as you talked earlier, it's a confidentiality issue, and there's no way for them to go back and look at that.
Okay, I've got a question on my end. What types of documents can be attached to the original application?
We have a list of categories. It's based on the information that's been provided during the application process. What Dave, when he went through his application, it was a very simplistic application. So all that we're asking for at that time is the identification and
Identification was all.
basically identification ones. But if you entered some income information, then we'll state that you should provide some income verification. There's expenses and resources, I believe. So we can provide a list of what's available from that perspective. Or are you referring to files or the type of information?
The types of files, PDFs, WAV files.
Yeah, the type of files, we'll have a list of that too. It's generally PDF, various GIF, TIFF, Word documents, Excel, I believe. But on the screen itself, when you're actually attaching the document, it does provide a list of the available types there.
Okay, so like a telephonic signature and a WAV file that could be attached.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Can, yeah.
It's that feature is limited to CBOs, not for clients.
Okay. Let's see. Liliana asks, can CBOs get a list of the new functionalities? I guess that would be for all of us. Is there going to be an upcoming list of new functionalities?
Yeah, we can definitely put together a kind of a bulleted list, if you will, of the new capabilities. Yeah.
All right. Liz has another question here about cookies. Doesn't the cookies on the browser automatically record the application as assisted by a CBO, even if we go create a new account by the individual client or via the individual client?
I mean, it's kind of irrelevant because, I mean, that process is going away, but to answer the question, because of the process flow that's gone through, the cookie is only looked at if you're going through the process flow as a CBO user would go through. If you're signing in as a client, that cookie is never referred to. So it's never going to have the association made that this was a CBO. So it's problematic that, and the cookies have been problematic, for quite some time.
All right. Any other questions? Liz has another one here. Nope, I got that one. So essentially, Stephanie, how about if you wrap things up? And many thanks to the CalWIN team from my end.
This concludes our webinar for today. I'd like to thank the CalWIN team for conducting this webinar. Thank you very much. We appreciate your time. And as Jeff stated earlier, we will be sending out an email to let you know where you can email any further questions you may have. All right. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.